The reason I brought the musical piece is to demonstrate that a few dozens of individuals, who most of them don't know each other, can get together and work together with unity and discipline and create something together, which is the key to redeem humanity. Purpose of these meetings on the Torah of Master Moses, bringing the problems of the fall of man, purpose of creation, how the world was created, and how we humans wrote it down, we failed it, and how to redeem it. And the musical band is a hint for humanity that we are capable of solving our problem while learning to work together. But musical bands, of course, cannot heal the humanity, since all participants must to be centered on the Divine Beloved and learn to work together under the direction of an advanced soul. And this, unfortunately, is not happening. Anyway, what I want to do is to share the very first article I wrote in 1981, which connects to what I have been sharing of the Torah of Master Moses. Hope you see this. This is the article I wrote. Do you see on Israelis and Arabs? Hope you see it, because I don't know if always when I share something, if you also see it. Somebody can tell me if you see it?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, thank you. During 1980, I received the Jerusalem Baba Center from the first Baba lover in Israel, Kerry Ben Shammai. She met Meir Baba in New York, 1956. I told this story extensively before, and you can see details on my website, which is meherababaisrael.com. If you can see it on top here. There are lots of material about this person. And when I received her center, which was a very large amount of papers and books and material and photos of Baba, and many originals from the 20s and 30s onwards. Personally, I didn't know what to do with at that time with all this, because I didn't know how to run a center, how to run meetings, how to communicate with people. But I felt the inner impulse to do something. So what I did, since I live in a very disturbed country, the country of Israel, we have a situation of non-stop wars, and I have been going to wars, to the army, to wars many times, dozens of times, and it was especially acute after Meir Baba came to my life, 1972. He brought the issue of war to the zenith for many reasons. So presumably he wanted me to understand the in and outs of war in personal experience. As you can understand, the Avatar is not teaching theoretically, but practically. So if I was supposed to know what war is, have to go there. It was not a real exactly a picnic, and we have a constant wars in here in the Middle East the past 100 years, and we don't see the end of it. Now, what happened? I picked up a booklet from the library. The name of the booklet was Meherabad on War, which was published by the Pune Center during the 70s. So I said, well, I'm going to translate it into Hebrew, and it was my very first assignment. Before that, I didn't do any writing or translating, definitely not like this. So for 2 weeks, I looked myself and translated this book. And when I finished the translation, it was sharp midnight. And my hands were as if two hands were holding my hands. I felt that such things happened to me before. I'm not a mystic and I'm not psychic, but all kinds of things happened to me since Baba walked into my life. And I never was interested with the supernatural, but since I was resolved to work for the Avatar, he has his own ways to bring things together, to educate, to bring things home. And personally, since I didn't believe in this supernatural, he wanted me to experience once that there is such a thing like automatic writing. And this article was written through me in Hebrew through automatic writing, meaning that my hands were seized and the pen was writing. And I was writing things which I didn't know before. So I'm going to read you this article, and you will see that it connects to what I have been sharing with you concerning the book of Genesis. This article has nothing to do with the nations who live in the Middle East and have conflict over territories. It meant the spiritual purpose behind the people and is relevant to all people everywhere. A quote from the introduction which I wrote to the book Meherabad on War. This book came to say that the truth exists in spite of all human efforts to discard it to death. We have a special purpose on earth, and this is not being expressed by eating, drinking, making love, etc. Man was created to be a living truth, an example and a sign for his neighborhood in his living. We are not thinking and eating animals, but the link between the cosmos and this earth. This land, which was created to enable endless creatures to evolve on the path of infinite states of consciousness under the supervision of humankind, till the final perfect state through which the Creator himself is being revealed on earth as a perfect being endowed with ultimate infinite consciousness. The state of Israel has a unique purpose on earth, just the same that each country and nation have their own special task. We can see the body of mankind like one big body, like the human body consists of many organs and systems. The nervous system, the muscles, the bones, digestion, excretion, etc. In the living body, we can know two major systems, control and command, or the system of the brain and the nerves, and the system of operation and work, the muscles. The place of this land is in the control mechanism of the planetary body and serves as its own of its main components. This is not a shelter for persecuted people, but a very special organ. The existence of this organ depends on its components. The human beings, each one of them is like one cell in the body. These cannot survive as their single efforts, but as one harmonious whole. If we will give a momentary look at the daily living, we will see a dense soup of endless individuals who don't know why they exist and what is their destiny. So, a leadership is needed. Those individuals who are endowed with greater and deeper understanding, who know what is their task and how to execute it. Their task today is to shape the general body and channel it to the direction which will bring healing and harmonious, correct living. There is not today such a leadership in action. That's why things look as they are. This book is being dedicated to this potential leadership which exists in this country to those people who know why they live here, who can transcend beyond the feeling of one lonely small person and who see themselves as part and parcel of the creation and beyond. If this leadership won't take on itself the responsibility which is being placed on it, life won't be able to continue to exist. If this country won't come back and take its correct stance in the body of humankind, it won't be able to exist, and this will be the fate of all life on earth. Today, the body of humankind is like a rotten, decaying body which is trying by all means to postpone its moment of dying. If life continues and the body of humankind will receive its anticipated healing, it depends if those mentioned will rise up and fulfill their duties for which they were created. The special body that the people who live here were destined to create consists of two components that cannot function without the other, like the two chambers of the heart. There is no existence for the heart without its two chambers. Imagine to yourself that one chamber gets jealous that the other tries to throw it outside as if saying, "This heart is mine, it is mine inheritance. If it will succeed, it will sentence itself to death." Likewise, this organ consists of two big units, Jews in brackets and Arabs in brackets. What was once called the children of Israel and the children of Ishmael, the descendants of Lord Abraham. These two have to live together like one harmonious body. This land was meant for both of them together. The meaning of Israel is a man of God, a man, for example, who proves in his daily living the existence of the absolute truth, and the meaning of Ishmael is listen to God, listen to the example and directives of the man God. We can say that the Arabs need the example we, in brackets Israelis, have to proclaim. They cannot survive without us, and we cannot survive without them. The only cause which unites the Arabs together in their hatred to Israel, and the only true cause which should unite them, should be their love to Israel, which is a God-man. And this will happen only when God-man people will fulfill the destiny again. Wars will not stop as long as this state won't exist. It is not possible to invent peace when present condition will remain, sort of. Don't disturb me and I won't disturb you. Such peace is an illusion. There is no substitute for the truth. And sweet words won't plaster reality. As long as each person sees himself as a separate, egoistic being, there won't be peace. Humans won't be able to solve to their proper stance if they won't have leaders as an example, people with wisdom and understanding who stand above selfish, narrow national considerations, etc. The prime responsibility rests on those who can take such responsibility. So this was written February 7th, 1991. February 7th, it was sharp midnight when the Baba at that day was interred in his tomb. And what I was writing, I didn't know before that. I didn't have any idea whatsoever before writing it about all these proposals that these so-called these two nations supposed to work together as a team. I didn't know that. I was born into a very serious, hateful circumstance, non-stop wars since I remember myself as a boy. And it was very problematic and serious issue till Baba walked into my life and turned things, reversed the whole thing to, or redirected things according to the spiritual plan, starting to understanding and living the truth behind the words. So this was a little intro, and you can see already from 81, my deep connection, communion with ancient truth of Lord Abraham and the plan which was designed at that time, which is not known to humanity, is that these two bodies, there were 12 tribes of Israel, as we know, and the 12 tribes of Ishmael. And the 12 is like the musical scale. And these two bodies work together in harmony, they create the symphony. That was the design, the ancient design. Unfortunately, it never worked out. So we'll continue now sharing what I'm sharing with you from the book of Genesis, what I wrote. I wrote it initially in Hebrew and translate into English. Here we stopped last week. So I'll continue reading unless you have other suggestions. We are beginning to arrange our lives according to
No, good idea.
Sorry? I heard somebody saying something. Okay. We are beginning to arrange our lives according to what is seen as good or bad. In the initial pre-creation state, darkness and light were mingled, so the creation actually cannot exist. This mixed state exists within us, and our duty to separate between the two states. Goodness we can call light, and evil is darkness. Light is a light of understanding, darkness, wrong understanding, or lack of understanding, ignorance. Darkness is not a mere state of lack of light, it is actually a state of existence which is born out of wrong or limited consciousness. And it is a state of non-consciousness in its initial state. Darkness is instinctive action, ignorant, devoid of logic and unconcerned for the results of its actions. We can define light as consciousness through which we see and act, and the subconscious mind as darkness, the storage where all memories and impressions that we have experienced are being stored. These two elements in creation must come together. Without darkness, there is no light, and without light, darkness has no meaning. This creation of the inner light is a duty and privilege of every person. We're dealing with the first chapter of Genesis. Former sessions I explained how the whole thing started. When I explained the first verse, actually it's a moving picture in Meherabad around 2006. And I started to write down what I experienced according to the keys Baba gave me at that time. I tried to explain in the beginning the meaning of the first verse in Hebrew, which is only translated in the beginning, God created, etc. It's not an easy thing. It's almost impossible to explain it. And all the translations are wrong. I even checked the translation into Arabic, and even since Arabic and Hebrew are sister languages, the translator didn't succeed to bring the essence of the Hebrew verse into Arabic. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. But there were no days at that time. It was before the creation of the heavenly bodies. So what is a day and what is darkness is what is night. So the day is a process, a cycle of creation. Light supposed to bring us some understanding. And as we saw in the first verse, that was in the beginning was chaos and darkness, meaning the entire subconscious mind of humanity, of the individual, was full of sanskaras which blocked his vision. This is actually what is being presented here. The darkness is a veil of sanskaras which prevent us from seeing the true light, the true knowledge. Evening and morning, meaning a cycle which begins and comes to fruition. And each day represents a process which achieved a new state of consciousness. The cycle of activity was accomplished during which certain individuality appeared. This activity contained good and evil, which we symbolize as day and night. Consciousness and subconsciousness appeared. It is possible to define the term day as a creative cycle which meant to achieve a certain goal. A night is a period of rest, a time to absorb the experiences and learn. The creation consists of active cycles set to achieve a certain goal. Achieving the goals means a higher state of consciousness. A period of activity is actually a round cycle that has a beginning and an end, but the end point is not at the same place with the beginning point. It is like when it is working properly, it is the cycle is actually it's a spiral which keep on spiraling upwards. And each cycle is supposed to bring us to a higher place than before. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. When we read it, it's quite a strange sentence. Now let's see what it means. The partition was formed between the conscious and subconscious mind. Water symbolizes the conscious mind, and there must be a partition between the daily awareness and the endless storage of impressions. When the various mental components are mixed, the rational activity cannot take place. An active cognition cannot be formed. It is also a state of insanity. When the subconscious mind overtakes the conscious mind, the person loses his sanity, unfortunately. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. Of course, there's no such a thing in nature, water above this and under this. and there is some kind of firmament, some kind of isolation, some kind of a skin. It's always a symbol of what's happening in our mental apparatus. Then it makes sense. It is a process that we're responsible for. We start to organize our mental components. Since we succeeded in achieving certain consciousness, our duty is to place it in order. In God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. A clear state of consciousness was formed through which the individual I am can act. It is not possible to function when the conscious and subconscious minds are mixed. It is not possible to function if the endless memories which are stored in the subconscious mind would percolate constantly in the conscious mind. What we see in any period of activity or day is another new state which didn't exist before. We are the ones who create these states due to the tremendous will latent within us to understand ourselves. The fact that we give names to the things is an indication of the appearance of the wakeful state of consciousness. It is the first spark of taking responsibility. So he got the, or the Godhead. In the beginning, we see that in Hebrew, they say the word God in plural, Elohim, and Elohim are actually who we are. We are the creator because we move to the creation. And this is why it is in plural, because we are the manyness. This is the appearance of endless individuals who move to creation and start to create, start to seek the purpose of creation. Who are we? Which comes at the end. Then I think you can read it later if you want. I would skip this for whatever reason. I included the entire chapter of Genesis. So when people read it, they don't need to go to the book and search and go back and forth and back and forth. That's why I quoted all these paragraphs. So I keep it open, so if somebody wants to read it, they can read it. What we see here is a regular evolution of creation as what we understand. Mineral, plant, and till we reach the animal kingdom. We are traveling back in our imagination to the pre-creation state, to the original nothingness. We wake up to some kind of emptiness, vacuum. We are searching a way to establish something solid in our experience, something that we can hold, supposedly. A place where we can put things in order. The things we see externally on earth are being created due to our internal effort to create a world where we can act and experience, but we act without active awareness. Just suppose that we wake up to a state where we would experience ourselves as matter. What state of consciousness we would have? And if we would experience ourselves as water, what that would be, or as herb, worm, and so on. Let us try to enter these states and try to feel what that means. Why not to assume that all things have certain consciousness? A molecule of oxygen is being united with a molecule of hydrogen, A new state is being created, which we name water. Something happened behind the veil of theoretical chemistry devoid of feelings. Oxygen and hydrogen actually in love. They mate, and something new which didn't exist before came to be. Water is actually the child which was born due to this intercourse. Already today, we can locate an individual atom and name it, supposedly. We can track individual particles. What that means for us is that everything alive and has feelings, various states of cognition. Today, most of humanity has no sense for such things, and it sounds nonsensical to most of humans. The physical science will no doubt will negate these words as baseless and even stupid. I know from my own experience that this is true. I have proved it for myself, but I cannot prove it for others. This is a personal responsibility of each person to discover and prove independently. Why humans mentally oppose viewing the things from this perspective, because it has tremendous impact on the very existence of humanity as we see it today. What looms behind this opposition is shirking the responsibility bestowed upon us. This knowledge that everything is alive, we actually, what happened to us, and this will be described later on in the story of the Garden of Eden and what happened there, that we actually lost the consciousness of creation deliberately. We decided to discard our responsibility as a connecting link between the spiritual realms and the physical realms. The story which I read in the beginning about this, the so-called Jews and so-called Arabs, was an attempt to reconnect the spiritual world and the physical world. That was the purpose of these two nations, or bodies, or human beings. The two children of Lord Abraham was the avatar. He came to redeem or reconstruct the body of humanity back to its proper order. The development of consciousness starts to solidify things in our experience. The world begins to be clear and in order. Try to view ourselves when we are in the state of being previous to that of what we call the human state. Since a primordial spark of cognition starts to act within us, what is really happening? What is the very first experience we can have when there is no world at all around us? But still we have spark of consciousness. How we would feel? Maybe we would feel that we are airy, light, weightless. Is it possible that this experience will manifest physical in the form of air, gases? Would this experience as airy create what we defined as air? Is it possible that while our consciousness continues to be developed, becoming more integrated and solid, it creates what we call liquids and later on solid matter, earth? Is it possible that what we see and experience in our earthly lives are but the solidification of our experiences in past existing living phases? Does what we call a tree is actually the sum total of experiences which solidify in this physical world to this shape? Are we, our personal individuality, passes through these states in order to achieve gradually higher states of consciousness? Now, what I'm writing here is actually what is more or less being described in God Speaks by Meherabad and the theme of creation by Baba and other masters. But what I'm projecting here, that the book of Genesis is a very first manuscript of God Speaks, the theme of creation. This is actually what we are looking at. This is the book of Genesis, especially the first 3 chapters that describe what Baba explained in God Speaks. It is possible to say that in the initial stages of existence, minerals and plants awake, aware, intelligent consciousness doesn't exist as an ordinary human feels. But nevertheless, something is happening. These are lives in a low state of consciousness, the experiences that we gain in these spheres of existence create a subconscious mind. When the individual enters the being that we call animal kingdom, sparks of organized, intelligent consciousness begin to take form. Any person who raised animals knows that they possess understanding and cognition sometimes more than we have. Obviously, they feel happy or sad. An animal mourns when the mate suffers or dies. Their power of memory, they can find their way where humans cannot, and so on and so forth. It feels when we take care of animals and study them that behind them rests amazing intellectual force which directs their development. An animal cannot of its own develop means of self-protection for its survival. It cannot think that it has to develop horns or sharp teeth for eating and defense. Something must be behind the scenes and designs. It tells that there is a spiritual hierarchy and leadership behind the creation. But in the very first states of before everything, before the existence of supreme beings, the things were moving slowly according to the inner urge to know ourselves and took a very long time till the first human with a perfect consciousness appeared. And this will be portrayed later on during the first chapter of Genesis. So what we're dealing here is the very first stages of creation, even before the conscious Godhead exists in this realm, or what we call the perfect masters and the avatar, as if they didn't exist here yet. So the creation had to move spontaneously, naturally, till it reached this apex. And we'll talk about this later on. We can see gradual development of advancing states of consciousness, light, air, water, earth. What do things represent within our existence? Consciousness, feeling, sensation, reality. Try to view the world where we are living. It is an extremely complicated world, but where is it? When we look at something, don't we see it within ourselves? Why do we assume that things are external? It is due to the work of the senses, but the senses are no more but doors to the outer world, supposedly. We exist within, and thus the things are there. This feeling of external, what we say externally, this is a big illusion of creation. This is a trap when we fall in. when we wake up to this creation, it's very hard to get out of this. It is a dream of creation. Baba speaks about this so beautifully later on, and we will deal with this as well later on. The whole point of the book of Genesis is to wake up from this initial dream of creation. We are presumably at a very late stage in the process of creation, and we are adjusted almost automatically to the reality it is being revealed externally. What I'm trying to do or propose is to step back and try to understand the process from its inception. We are acquainted with the world through the senses, but if all senses are cut off, where is this world? We spoke about this in the beginning on the pre-meditation of non-meditation, what we call the vacuum state, as there is nothing. But there is still, even the very depth of nothingness, there is something. And if we have some sense, some experience of this nothingness, then we have the first step of understanding the creation. And now we are very deep into the creation. It's very hard, almost impossible to have such clean experience of nothingness. And this experience of nothingness, we do receive, and we eventually cross the entire process of evolution, spiritual evolution, involution, and this vacuum state we experience at the very end. What is actually an evolution? Ascending progress of states of consciousness that their echoes materialize through the manyness of objects and bodies. The evolutionary thesis of Darwin concerning evolution of living beings might be true from the formation viewpoint, since we can see a ladder of progressive hierarchy, but this cannot happen on its own. There must be a force behind the form that aspires to proceed, and this power is a power of consciousness seeking perfection. For Darwin and others, you can see the process of evolution in the physical world, but they don't understand that there is a force and a power behind this which gives it the proper design. Force, for example, which inspires a being, an animal, to develop horn or teeth or nails to protect itself or for whatever reason. One plant represents the sum total of all states of consciousness in the mineral kingdom. Indeed, what it tells us, that each cycle brings the top of each cycle is being represented by some form of mineral, and eventually the sum total of the mineral kingdom is actually one plant because it consists of all the minerals of the world. In the third phase of activity, the word tov, or good, appears. In the third day, there's the first time God is pleased with his work, supposedly. It came to symbolize a new state of consciousness which didn't exist before, a successful cycle of activity and long the aspiration of achieving self-understanding. Everything which is in place is good. If it isn't in its proper place, it is bad, or ra in Hebrew. Manure on the plate is bad. Manure that we spread between the plants we eat is good. We can see that the force that is working within us starts to identify the things and gives them names. The unique name signifies awakening. Thus, the word good came to define the state. The movement of the individual, which is the purpose of creation, enters into a systematic, organized condition. In contrast to the initial chaos, where the endless individuals seem like a shapeless soup. And we actually about to finish an hour. We stay more or less an hour, and probably next week we'll continue from here, if so you wish. So I'll mark it, save it. Somebody wants to offer something, you are more than welcome. All right.